I was wrong. I don't know that I could have been more wrong about Ohio State and Oregon. I thought the Buckeyes were going to mop the floor with the Ducks. It would not be close because Ohio State was better than Oregon at virtually every possession. And that wasn't the case. I underestimated Oregon. Their wide receivers are significantly better than I thought they were. And their offensive line is either on par or better than Ohio State's. And that played a big factor in the win. Because you know what Dillon Gabriel didn't face at all on Saturday? Pressure. Ohio State never really got to Dillon Gabriel. And their offensive line deserves credit for that, deserves praise for that. Because Ohio State has pass rushers, both on the edge and up the middle. And they never really got to Dillon Gabriel. Oregon had a really good game plan that they executed. They were looking to steal possessions whenever they could get them. They were looking for efficiency, and they were significantly more efficient than Ohio State was. And when push came to shove, Oregon performed when Ohio State did not. When the going got tough, the Ducks got going. And they deserve a boatload of credit for the way that they played and won against a team that I think a lot of people in the country thought was either the best or second best team in America, and Oregon beat them. Now, that's not to say that they might play down the road, and it might be a different result. And Ohio State might have learned something from the game. I don't know that, and this is, again, I think one of the nice things about the 12-team playoff is Ohio State's not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. Can't probably afford another loss or a loss to somebody they shouldn't lose to. But it is not the end of the world for any stretch for Ohio State. But Oregon, give credit where credit is due. I could not have been more wrong about a lot of their personnel. I underestimated them. And they showed the college football world that they are for real. Now they need to continue that. They can't then go out and lay just a big fat egg against Purdue on Friday night. That would be bad. But Oregon showed they belonged in a really impressive way. And speaking of Dillon Gabriel, this plays into my theory that I think is correct. And that is that if you are a quarterback who balls out at the group of five level, if you can show that you can play, and it's not necessarily those around you as much as you are elevating everybody else, there is a spot for you somewhere in the Power Five. You saw it with Dillon Gabriel at Oklahoma, and you saw it at Oregon. When he was playing at Central Florida, he was killing it. Showed without a shadow of a doubt that he could play and that he deserved to be on the big stage. And he found his way to the big stage. Diego Pavia played at New Mexico State, was a baller, played really, really well enough to go to Vanderbilt and play really well at Vanderbilt. I had mentioned Grayson McCall in the early portions of the preseason and going into the season that I thought Grayson McCall would be a really great player for North Carolina State. And injuries have made that a little bit more difficult than he probably projected it. But I think that there's really no denying that if you see a group of five quarterback who plays at a really high level, and even not in, like get the attention for the Heisman Trophy and things like that, those group of five quarterbacks, people are watching, people are paying attention, and they see the players that not everybody on planet Earth sees. For instance, Curtis Rourke at Indiana is having a spectacular season. 1,700 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He transferred to IU from Ohio, where he played really well. I think the more you see it, the more I would be convinced that the quote unquote lesser schools in the Power Four conferences, right? Like your Minnesotas, Rutgers, Northwesterns, and your Mississippi States and Vanderbilts and South Carolinas of the world. That might be their key to recruiting success in the future, because it has never been more important to be really, really good at the quarterback spot. For instance, if you go down the list of the standings in the SEC, Texas A&M is 3-0. They've got the quarterback situation figured out. Texas, quarterback situation figured out. LSU, Georgia, quarterback situation figured out. Alabama, Tennessee. They all know who their quarterback is definitively and have a future with him. The teams at the bottom, Mississippi State, not playing well at quarterback. Auburn, not playing well at quarterback. Kentucky, not playing well at quarterback. South Carolina, and go on and on. But it makes perfectly logical sense of like, hey, this guy playing football good conceivably will continue to play football good if we bring him to our school. And so when Dillon Gabriel was in a rock and a hard place when Oklahoma was in a rock and a hard place with Dillon Gabriel, we want you back, but we got 2 young quarterbacks we feel really strongly about. I don't know that we have room for you. Sorry. That's somebody else's game. And you're going to see that continually. I think kids move up from the group of 5 that might not get the offers that they want out of high school. And the options continue to be like, hey, I can go to this Power 4 school and I can sit and wait my turn until maybe I'm a junior and play. But I run the risk of them bringing in somebody else from the transfer portal who might derail my plans and I'm going to go somewhere else. So I'm going to go to a group of 5 school as a freshman, maybe get on the field, show something a little bit. At worst, play as a sophomore and have the opportunity to move up to the Power 4. I think you're going to see that more and more and more, where kids are the idea of getting on the field as early as possible, fast-tracking yourself to as much game tape as possible to send to Power 4 schools and NFL scouts is going to be the name of the game. And if you can play at the group of 5 level, the quarterback position really well, I think time after time after time, we see that translate to the Power 5 level. And if that's going to continue, I think you're going to see that develop more and more and more. That it makes logical sense if you play quarterback really well. You're going to keep doing it when we put better coaches around you, better strength and conditioning, better nutrition, better players around you. You're going to play that much better. So I think you're going to continue to see that. And I think Dillon Gabriel is kind of like exhibit A in that case of, if you can play down here at a really high level, there's a really good chance you can move up and play really well here too. And he put that on display on Saturday night and won Oregon a football game. It's time to take a look at our Sunday Stiff Arm Trophy update. This is my Heisman Trophy ballot. I don't have one, would like one, but we update who I would vote for every Sunday here on the Daily Huddle. So my Heisman ballot looks like this. Ashton Jeanty remains at the top. I don't know how you vote for anybody else, frankly. Ashton Jeanty has 1,248 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns for the best group of 5 school in the country. They're 5-1, and their one loss is by an incredibly small margin, 3 on the road at Oregon, who is now the number 2 team in the country. He has 17 touchdowns, averaging 10 yards per carry. On Saturday, he rushed for 31 carries, 217 yards, and a touchdown against Hawaii. He averaged 7 yards per carry and brought his average yards per carry down for the season. If that doesn't show you what kind of performance Ashton Jeanty is having, I don't know what will tell you. In all of last season, he had 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns. Right now, he's got 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. And they still have half a season to go. Ashton Jeanty should be at the top of your Heisman ballot if you have one. Travis Hunter, Colorado, it has my second Heisman ballot place. I think him continuing to get the opportunities to play on both sides of the football is going to continue to put him at the top of the Heisman Trophy race. Colorado is 4-2, as long as they don't just fall off the face of the earth. Now, he didn't have a big receiving weekend against Kansas State. Three catches, 26 yards. He's not getting a ton of chances to make tackles or interceptions because they just don't throw at him, which is, you deserve a little bit of credit from that standpoint. But I'll keep him at number 2 for now. But I'm unless he starts to produce more offensively, I don't think he's going to stay in those top 3. And then finally, Jalen Milroe did not have a great Saturday against South Carolina. Only missed 7 passes. However, 2 of them were for interceptions. Threw for 209 yards and a touchdown. Had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. He continues to perform through both the air and the ground. But for Alabama and Jalen Milroe to stay in the Heisman Trophy race, they can't continue. They can't lose to Vanderbilt and continue to then struggle against South Carolina. And you could probably argue deserve to lose to South Carolina. They have a decently tough schedule coming up where they're going to play Missouri, LSU, and Oklahoma, Tennessee, Missouri, LSU back to back to back. Jalen Milroe can cement himself as a finalist to New York, or he can watch those dreams dwindle in those 3 games. But it's something to keep an eye on. But right now, I don't know how you vote for anybody other than Ashton Jeanty. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. Goes a long way in helping out the channel. See you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.